11/11, November 11, 2024. We're doing a reading for the 11/11 portal, for the messages and the theme going forward as the energies of 2024 begin to come to a close. As we transition into the energies of the new year of 2025. The light and shadow aspects, the archetype, the personality and archetype that is going to govern the opening of this portal, the coming few weeks, all the way up until the conclusion of this year. These are the light and shadow aspects of ourselves that we need to look out for, harness, embrace, embody, release. This is going to mark the theme of the coming weeks and this portal. And Vanita there has the final 3 cards. That will reveal fully the entire message and theme for the 11/11 portal, and how we can harness the power of this portal to maximize all of what we want to do and all of our endeavors in the coming weeks and months. Vani, shall we flip?
Yep.
Okay. So the archetype that we have here is the scribe. So the scribe also speaks to me about Thoth.
Yeah.
Who's quintessential scribe in Egyptian mythology and Egyptian culture, energy work. The light attribute of the scribe is to preserve knowledge and information, of course. And the shadow attribute is alerting facts or plagiarizing others' work. So I feel like there is we're being spoken to I feel like a lot of conclusion and a lot of new beginnings, but very like paperwork and writing based. And the importance of it, the importance of doing all of that paperwork, whether it is, someone who wants to start penning a story, or someone who wants to write their will, or, put your books in order. The importance and significance of getting your home in order, and preserving all of what it takes to get everything in order. And I think it's almost like we're being alerted to, perhaps if there's some misuse, or if someone is sort of trying to, utilize that skill, but for their own benefit, to the detriment of others. So just to be watchful, to not turn a blind eye, to not just trust blindly.
I think the other aspect that's coming up for me is I feel also that we are this portal is going to take us into it's almost like a new phase or a um, new era actually. There's something very imminent. It's the ending, of course, it's the ending of the year, but also I think there's an ending of something much larger. Like there is like humanity is on the precipice of massive change. And what I think the scribe card, at least the light aspect, is signaling to me is to use the time that we have left in this world, in this world, yeah, I suppose in this version of the world, in this year, to distill whatever we've learned, wisdom, because if we don't, I think we'll lose it or we'll forget it going forward. And to use that, to use this time to to script to write down the wisdom and advice is what I'm getting for going forward.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful because I think it also speaks to me when I look at it through that lens. It's like also just preserving the wisdom and the knowledge or guidance that comes through in its purity, rather than sort of trying to see it through our own lenses, which then, like the card says, it alters the facts, or it's almost like, you're sort of plagiarizing others' work. And when you look at it from the standpoint of guidance that's coming from source,
Yeah.
when you look at it through your own limited lenses, it's literally doing that. So you have to be very cognizant of whether you're able to look at guidance that's in its purity, like what it truly means in its essence, or are we trying to sort of distill it and filter it through our own lenses?
Yeah.
um yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, and then if you look at like the larger theme, there's an interesting card from the Rose Oracle deck. It's called the Thorn. And I really feel like this is speaking towards the endings, like just the conclusiveness of this year, like how you also said something about endings.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of energy about, just wrapping up, endings, closure. Um, you know, I also feel like come November, it's always, like the energies are in this flux of this shift. Like November is so much like on that precipice of the old year and the new year.
Yeah.
The year that's going by and the year that's to come.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting because I think November is really that transitory phase. I think every year, like for the last many years, I've felt like every year is about, come November, it's about looking back, reflecting, closing, old chapters, preparing for the new. So it's very interesting what this card says. The Thorn card says protection, boundaries, and clear communication. So again, like if you look at the scribe, communication of a different kind is in the written form, and here it's talking about sort of the verbal form, or any other form of communication for that matter. But again, it's like, to me, it's really speaking to the attributes of the scribe again, because on the one hand you have to ensure that you protect yourself, you set boundaries. On the other hand, it's also saying, sort of open yourself to clear communication. The more you're sort of able to have clear communication, open channels of communication, you're able to be heart centered, you're able to sort of really hone into that inner wisdom, inner guidance, the truth, to speak your truth. and allow that wisdom to come through without any filters, without any, without being colored.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like a very important theme of not only closing this year, but also bringing in the new year, with clear communication, with heart-centered, wisdom and communication. And then the second card from the Rose Oracle deck is the Rapture card.
Interesting.
It's
On in your Rapture.
Yeah, it's so interesting that they would come up together. And of course, the two parts of the rose are the thorn and then of course the beauty and the rapture of the rose itself. So you can't have one without the other. So it's almost like it ties in so beautifully with the scribe. Because there's no way you could have like the rose without the stem and the thorns, or the thorns without the rose. It's a package deal. So I think we're also being told to just focus then on the beauty of the rose, the fragrance of the rose, the multi, layers and facets of the rose, the ability to sort of really, if you were to look at a rose from top to bottom, like a bird's eye view, it's like you when you look at it top to bottom, you're able to sort of look deep within its center.
Yeah.
So it's really like, just spiraling down, spiraling inwards. Again, going back to, preserving that knowledge or information or wisdom or, guidance. And for that, you have to sort of step in deep inside yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where the nectar is. That's where the sweetness is. That's where the wisdom is. That's where the love is. And from that space, if the wisdom comes, then it will come through very clearly. It'll come, that will lead to clear communication. That will lead to, crystal clear intention. And all the action that comes from it will be pure and will be easeful, I feel, and will lead to a, beautiful life, not only a year.
Yeah.
The card itself says sensuality, love, devotion, romance, ecstasy, and pleasure. So I think it's also speaking to a lot of, what the future holds if you allow it to unfold like that. But you have to work through the shadows and the darkness. You have to work through the thorns. You have to do the work, which is working on your boundaries, your protection, clear communication, all the work that it takes to get there. But it's so complete, like just in itself.
Yeah.
Just in terms of a journey, it's like telling you, where you begun from and where you're sort of heading towards. So it's very beautiful.
And I also realized that there is the light and shadow aspect on the scribe card, and the two cards, the rose oracle cards, are also showing
the shadow.
Light and shadow. Yeah.
Exactly, which is what I was saying, that it speaks so clearly to the archetype deck as well, to the archetype card as well. So wonderful, like how they're tied in so beautifully. It's magnificent.
And it somehow seems to segue into the first card that I took out from the Metatron deck, which is duality.
Oh wow, my goodness. I've got goosebumps. It's amazing, like how interconnectedness works.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that I noticed while I was sort of absorbing the cards. So duality is card number 23, right? I don't know if you can see it. It's card number, so that's 2 + 3 is 5. Next card is red.
Okay.
That's card number 55.
Wow.
Which is the master number.
Wow.
That's 2 + 3, 5. And then we have 5, 5.
Yeah.
Then the next card is fire.
Wow.
Which is 19, and 1 + 9 is 10.
Oh,
so
wow.
We have multiples of, 5, it's 555, and then we have 10. So it's all, it's interesting. What are we heading into next year is year number 9. This year is the year of the dragon, isn't it?
Yep. And
dragon strength, yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
Dragon strength.
Doesn't
Fire.
that also say something about strength?
Yes, it says safety, strength, and power.
Wow. And isn't that like a pyramid as well?
Yes, yes, that's what. Oh my God, yes, absolutely right.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
This
And
is a TP and this is a pyramid.
yeah, but those look like some horses or something, while here there's a dragon, but it's like
Yes,
there's so much similarity.
yeah,
Wow. But you know, it's amazing. Like to me, this whole safety, strength, power, it's like again, it's speaking to, you know, like to me, like the thorn.
yeah.
You know, it's like it's a warning,
Mm,
you know, or it's like telling you what you really need to hone in on, what you really need to work on.
yeah.
You need to work on your strength and harnessing your strength. Um,
These actually it remind me of the Mooladhara Chakra and the Swadhisthana actually.
I was going to say that when you said to me red, instantly I said, you know, those are the chakras, the Swadhisthana, the Mooladhara, yep. And then that there you have the crown and the Ajna chakra,
Yeah,
Sahasrara and the Ajna,
yeah,
and the throat.
yeah. Which is the scribe, communication.
Yeah, correct, of course. And then you have the heart. Like for me, this is the heart.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, you've got all the chakras here.
yeah. Well, we're missing one, Manipura, I guess. But
Money,
this could be Manipura as well,
right.
because I mean it's could be both.
Yeah, because it's also talking about strength and power.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
strength and power is the Manipura chakra.
yeah.
You know, the seat of strength, the seat of power.
Identity,
Identity, yes.
projection of who you are into the world.
Oh, and fire, Agni, digestion,
Yeah, digestion.
all of that. So yeah, I mean, here you have it, you know, you have all the 7 chakras. So it's literally like, you know, I also feel like you work through all of this and it's going to work at a very physical level on your chakra system.
Mm.
It's almost like you go through like your own physical cleansing, purging,
Yeah,
revitalizing, and then really sort of coming into your own. And that's when, you know, when you can sort of really be grounded in unconditional love, which is the essence then of that rapture. You know, it's not just sensuality, love, romance, ecstasy, pleasure in the way that we, you know, think of it as in the flesh and in the body.
Mm.
Because here it also says devotion, and that's like the highest form of love. So it's really, yeah, like unconditional love. And you have to, if you have to ground yourself into that, you have to work through all of this fire
Yeah,
and communication. Wow, that looks like a really powerful close of the
yeah,
before and the beginning of the new year.
yep.
Wow.
I think what is coming up for me for red also is all of this actually coming back to balance, because what the card of duality here, which has got the yin yang sort of symbol, says balance needed.
Mm.
So how it's about walking that fine line, because I think when we get into safety, power, strength and power, we can overdo it.
Mm.
Similarly with dragon strength, you can end up being burnt by the dragon's fire.
Of course.
So I think it's to find and therefore I think what's coming to me right now is the scribe archetype. I think it's equally important, not just to communicate with, of course, with the world, but I think to communicate or to have a dialogue or a conversation with your own self, and to be true to yourself. I think it's very easy to talk yourself into strength and power,
Yes.
but not not be true, or it's easy to it's easy to slip into the shadow aspect of the scribe,
Yeah.
right? You tell yourself a story, or you build a narrative in your own mind,
Yeah.
where you don't where it's it's warped. It's
Yep.
it's not exactly the truth, right?
Away from the truth. Yes.
Yeah, and I think what is coming for me very clearly is that if we can't sit in our own truth,
Yeah.
especially in the next 2 months as we come to the end of 2024.
Yeah.
We won't have a solid base, a solid foundation.
Of course, absolutely. And it's so interesting because I see how they, those three cards tie in with this. I feel like the scribe is also talking about balance, just as your yin yang card. With this deck, it's like, for me, it's always yin yang, right? Because they're asking you to always balance the light with the shadow aspects.
Yeah.
And with all the strength and power that you're talking about in the last two, in the final two cards, I feel like, look at the rose. I mean, the rose talks about, gentleness. It's a story of gentleness. It's a story of beauty and delicacy. But at the same time, the rose comes from a space of strength. The thorns preserve water, so that if the rose, is underwatered or doesn't receive water, the thorns are able to, provide it hydration. So they have their own sort of internal mechanism of self-preservation, of inner strength.
Yeah.
And they are speaking, the rose is sort of speaking to us of its own inner strength, of harnessing that inner strength and being able to balance that strength. And how, you touch the thorn, and you'll bleed. At the same time, the rose is such a sweet fragrance, so beautiful, so delicate, such a gorgeous flower. There's so much to learn from the rose. So it's definitely balancing, that balancing act of the gentle and the delicate part of you, the one that sort of is able to hone in on wisdom, and at the same time, the other one that's able to keep a checks and balances on, are you sort of wavering? Are you, like you said, telling yourself a narrative that's away from the truth? Are you overdoing the strength? Are you overdoing the power? Is that leading to some form of control?
Yeah.
And power doesn't mean being in control. See, unfortunately, today, we look at, a lot of times we look at strength and power as just being, in control of a situation.
Yeah.
Or, clear communication means I want it my way. But that's not necessarily the case. So very, very nuanced.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, and I think the nuance there is to be able to sit with both.
Yeah.
Which is what the scribe card, which is showing the shadow light, as well as this card, the card of duality, saying that they're both the same sides of the it's the two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
And to be able to hold that requires strength.
Absolutely, of course. It's like, for me, that balancing that you were talking about is like, standing on one foot.
Yeah.
So in order to have that strength, to be able to stand balanced, firm on one foot, you really need focus. You need steadfastness. You need to sort of be, have one pointed intention, direction, focus. And that is true strength. So the strength is not in, how strong your leg is, but the strength is also the strength of the mind and intention and focus. So, wow, I think it's a very power-packed next month and a half.
Yeah.
And the run-up to 2025.
Yeah.
There's also a sweet energy to 2025.
No, really, I think it's going to be fire.
Well, there's a sweetness to that fire.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's always fire. But I'm really looking at 2025 through the lenses of rapture. I think it depends on what we focus on. Are we going to focus on the thorns, or are we going to focus on the beauty of the rose? So I think it's also about shifting our perspective, shifting our vantage point. So, while what you said about fire, I think that's very true. And like I said, I truly believe there's always fire. Like, you have to work through all of
Mm.
that to get to anywhere. But I think what we're being asked to do here is also to choose what we want to focus on.
Yeah.
And if we choose to focus on the beauty, on the love, on the light, on the ecstasy, on the pleasure, on all of what life is offering us, um, working through the fire you won't feel the heat as much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I know this is not a reading for 2025, and we'll do that at some point.
Yeah.
But it's definitely speaking to me of a very sweet energy in 2025. Yeah.
The other thing that these pyramids are sort of messaging or signaling me at the moment is to say that, like you said, of course there's going to be fire,
Yeah.
but then that is how we protect ourselves
Mm.
in whatever way, whether it is through and I think everyone has their own personal practice of what makes them what gives them the strength
Mm.
to withstand the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what these pyramids are saying. It's because you're grounding the energy of 2025,
Yes.
but in a way that keeps your balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, the base of the pyramid is so balanced, right?
Yeah,
A wide base.
yeah.
And then everything is built on top of that. So it's also like, to me, if you go back to the scribe, it's like, what do I need to do to have a very sound foundation?
Yeah.
And laying that foundation can require you to sort of be the scribe, which is to really have clear intention, to really clearly lay the foundation and the basis of everything that you want to build today, and then you build a structure over and above that foundation.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of the next 2 months is also just laying the groundwork for what you want to build.
Yes, in 2025, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, the pyramids, the Egyptian pyramids, Mayan pyramids, they've all, withstood so many thousands of years because of the strength with which they've been built.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me is only the foundation.
Yeah.
Today, it's their foundation that has led to them being structures that are nothing can be done, nothing can happen to them.
Yeah.
I also feel like the dragon, as well as the guide, in the second card, the sort of, yeah, it's almost like a Mayan priest or something, or perhaps an Egyptian priest is, there's
So
also
Native American, I guess, looking at the teepees.
American. Oh, right. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, of course. I didn't notice that. Correct. So it's like, to me, it's speaking of, there's guidance, there's guardian angels, there are wise men, who are there, backing us, who are behind us, who are there to sort of protect us. So you're not on your own is the other thing. Like, I feel like in the fire, don't look at it like you're on your own.
Yeah.
So while you might find yourself fortified within this pyramid, like you were talking about protection for yourself. Like, if you find yourself fortified within this pyramid, it's going to seem like you're by yourself, but these guardian angels are always around you, and not to sort of forget that you're not by yourself.
Yeah, and if you look at, I don't know if you can see it on this card. Do you know what this symbol is? It's this hand. I don't know if you can see it very well.
No, I think, is it a hand or, oh yes.
Like there are five,
Oh,
there
yes.
are the fingers and there's like a spiral
Oh, yes.
in the middle.
Yeah, and the thumb. No, I don't know what that is. And maybe it's again a Native American sort of.
Let me see what the guidebook says. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sure.
No, it doesn't say. It doesn't speak to that specifically.
Mm.
But it's about conviction, leadership,
Mm.
respecting the earth.
See, again, leadership. When you say leadership, it's like, when you look at the scribe, for me, it's also about, when there's clarity of intention, when there is a vision, when there is a foundation that's being laid, you're working towards being a leader.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to sort of sit down, clear your head, have, a mission statement, have a vision statement, all of that. So I really feel like, we're being asked to sort of do that, even if it is on a very small scale of like, what's my mission statement and vision statement for the year 2024? I mean, 5.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is the last card of the deck.
oh, wow.
So clearly a card that is talking about the beginning of something and the end of something else.
Of course. Wow, that's beautiful. I think it's very powerful for the 1111 energies. It's a powerful portal. I definitely recommend just, everyone sort of taking a few moments, even if it's just a few moments in bed, but at the end of the day, but just meditating, going within, tapping into, their own wisdom to see what comes up for them, reflecting on this reading.
We want to close out 2024
Yes.
and prepare to welcome in 2025.
Yes, and I mean the 1111 portal remains open, so it's not like, oh, you missed it because 1111 is over. The energy, they remain open, so it's like you can always tap into it. Even if it's one day later or 10 days later or a few weeks later, tapping into the wisdom and all of what has come through as well, and seeing how that applies to your life.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing this reading with me.
Thank you.
So cool. I just want to say that the inspiration was for us to do like a pyramidal reading. So I did 1 and then 2, and you did the base. The 3.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing that then there's a pyramid within, the card.
Yeah.
It's literally like, everything that comes through is like leads to something, something to it, something deeper. And it's interesting also how you have the base of the pyramid. Like if I had 3 more,
yeah.
And a lot of your cards and all of what we've spoken about really has to do with laying the foundation. Yeah. So very, very interesting. It's always so humbling and beautiful to do a reading. There's so much wisdom that comes through. And I love doing them with you.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
Yeah. Thank you, Vani.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.